It wasn't pretty, but the Dodgers got the first win of the season, 1-0. Shohei Ohtani made his debut. What did he do, and what are we looking forward to? All that and more coming up. Let's get Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. This is the daily podcast covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And if you want to become an everydayer, all you have to do is listen or watch every day, which can be made easier by subscribing and get notified when our episodes are ready for you. If this is your first time listening or watching, welcome. My name is Vince Samperio. That's my co-host, Jeff Snyder. Jeff and I are lifelong Dodger fans that have watched a lot of Dodger games in our life. I don't know if we've ever been up at 3 a.m. before to watch a Dodger game, or specifically 3 a.m. We know I've been up at 1 a.m. for when they were in Australia. But either way, we're here to bring you the smart fans perspective on the Dodgers, making you and us more knowledgeable Dodger fans in the process. And Jeff, we survived. We woke up early. We watched the Dodgers, and for about 2.5 hours almost, it seemed like it might be in vain. And then the Dodgers turned it around, a little bit in part to the Padres, a little bit in part to some faulty lacing on Jake Cronenworth's glove. But yeah, it was a win nonetheless, and started out 1-0.
Yeah, no complaints there. And honestly, when things, that we kept seeing tweets about Dodgers are 0 for whatever with runners on base this game, 0 for whatever with runners in scoring position. And, even though we've seen, like in the 2022 playoffs and a lot of the 2018 season, how those things don't even out, they still do even out more often than they don't. And so the best way to get hits with runners in scoring position is to have a bunch of at-bats with runners in scoring position. So I always feel like these Dodgers are going to break out, and that's what they did. And it kind of reminded me when Tyler Anderson had his no-hitter going against the Angels a couple of years ago. I remember my thought the whole time was there's no way he's going to get Shohei Ohtani out a fourth time. And that's what ended up happening. And now the Dodgers have Ohtani plus Mookie plus Freddie, a stacked lineup. It's like, it's going to, and Joe and Oral talked about this a little bit as the Dodgers were breaking out in that 8th inning. It's really hard to get through this lineup 4 or 5 times unscathed. And when the Dodgers put a lot of guys on base, that means it is going to be 5 times instead of just 4 that you have to get through that top of the order. I don't think teams are going to be successful getting through this order 5 times very often.
Yeah, it was Shohei Ohtani's first game as a Dodger. He ended up with 2 hits and an RBI. Maybe 3 or 4 hits, depending if you were following some other baseball accounts on social media who thought a fielder's choice was a hit in his first at bat. But regardless, Ohtani was the show, was the story. He ended up, tacking on that run, did have a stolen base. The Dodgers were very aggressive in stolen bases early in the game. I'm not sure if that was a Yu Darvish thing or a Dodgers 2024 thing. That remains to be seen. But yeah, I mean, like I said, we're going to talk about Tyler Glasnow next. Mookie had a hit. Gavin Lux had the ball through the glove. We had nice defense all around in the Dodgers infield, but Ohtani's the story. And, what do we see out of him?
Yeah. And, he had the 2 hits. He had a foul ball that was hit 119 miles an hour, would have been a laser of a home run, but it was probably, 20 feet foul or whatever. He easily could have had 3 or 4 hits because there was a diving play on one of his grounders. There was a grounder in the infield that he almost beat out, took a pretty nice play from whichever Wandy was pitching at the time. It was a really good game, even though it kind of says something about Ohtani that it's kind of an underwhelming game. All he did was go 2 for 5 with a big RBI extending a lead, and was on base 4 times, even though, 2 of them weren't, he didn't get credit for hits on them. Spent a lot of time on the bases. He also had a big base running blunder to end that big 8th inning. I think it's nice that happened in a situation where
he did that for you.
Yeah, it might have even been. It might have cost them a run because Will Smith did lead off the next inning with a hit. You can't be sure that hit would have happened, but maybe cost them a run, but it didn't cost them the game. And you have to assume that Ohtani is not going to make that particular mistake again. So that's good. Yeah, all in all, like it was fun to see Shohei Ohtani in a Dodger uniform. Like I know we've seen it all spring. We've even seen it in the Dodger whites a couple times, but in a game that actually mattered, watching him, having the camera panning to his wife in the crowd. It was really, really fun as a Dodger fan and a Shohei Ohtani fan to see a game that mattered with Shohei Ohtani wearing the Dodger uniform.
Yeah, and like I said, to go beyond Ohtani, infield defense was solid. Gavin Lux made 2 really good throws and turned a double play. Not the greatest throw, but hey, good enough. Mookie Betts made all his plays at shortstop. Even Max Muncy made all his plays at third base. So solid on that. And on the Padres front, on the Dodgers and Padres front, Dodgers had 8 walks, a bunch of hits.
I think 9
walks. Yeah, 3 of them or 4 of them had a pitch clock violation ball in them. 2 of them, specifically ball 4, was a pitch clock violation. So they still got working on their things. But for the Dodgers, the Padres starting rotation after adding Dylan Cease, it's a little bit better now. But they kind of built through the back end of the bullpen, and it worked. Yu Darvish didn't get out of the 4th inning, and the Padres started using a bunch of arms, and the Dodgers kept getting guys on base but weren't scoring. But like you said, it's hard to beat this lineup more than 3 times, let alone 4 or 5 times. And it was fun. The crowd looked fun. Every player gets their own chant, I think, or at least the main players do. They kept showing that. They showed Ohtani's wife a few times after his at-bats, and not a bad way to start off the 2024 season.
Yeah, on Lux's defense, if you didn't know that Lux has defensive issues, you never would have known it from this game. That he had 4 plays, 3 perfect throws, and 1 good enough throw. He looked like just a normal second baseman, which is what we're hoping for. As for the pitching, I think one of the big arguments that people make against teams doing bullpen games is that if one guy has a bad day, it can blow the whole thing up. And I think that's a valid argument. I think it's why teams don't do bullpen games except when they have to a lot of the time. And I felt like this, even though it wasn't technically a bullpen game, you could tell they probably wanted to get a little more depth from Darvish than they did. But I think they knew it was a possibility. The Dodgers are a notoriously patient team and good at getting pitchers' pitch counts up. So I'm sure they knew this was a possibility that Darvish wouldn't even get through 4 innings. And what we saw was, this long line of pitchers. All it took was one guy having a bad day, and that got the job done for the Dodgers. And so,
even then, if ground ball feels that ground ball, could potentially be no play. Maybe not with Gavin Lux, but even not a fully bad day, just like a little bit of a bad day.
Yeah, but then the Dodgers did get hits after that. You get a little bit of luck. There's, because Mookie and Ohtani followed that up with the hits. And so, it's that little opening the Dodgers needed. And then, now we'll actually start getting some hits too. And the stadium was playing weird. So the times when they hit the ball the hardest usually was fly outs to the outfield. It was, Teoscar's hit that inning was a bloop. Ohtani's hit was kind of a bloop. Mookie's was just a ground ball that got through the infield, all legit hits, but not the hardest hit balls of the day by any means. And that it worked out for the Dodgers. So yeah, we're going to talk more in the 3rd segment about all the relievers and specifically the left-handers. But yeah, it's if the Dodgers can drive up pitch counts on starters, it's gonna, it definitely works in their benefit. And I think that's why the Dodgers scored so many runs late in games last year, and hopefully they're going to do that again. They're off to a good start with 4 runs in the 8th inning today.
Yep. Shohei Ohtani made his debut. Tyler Glasnow also made his debut. Not the best start in terms of efficiency, but good enough overall. And he didn't get tackled with the loss. So we're going to talk about that. Let's keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is here for you now that football season's over, baseball season's coming up, and it's tournament season and NBA playoff season. There's a lot to get into, and PrizePicks can help you out because it's America's #1 fantasy sports app where you can turn your sports knowledge into serious cash. You can now win 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with NBA, NHL, and college basketball entries on PrizePicks. So go check it out right now. If you look at PrizePicks right now, they have a special going on for this weekend on Saturday. Caitlin Clark, the big all-time leading scorer in NCAA basketball history, they've put her down to 0.5 points more or less. If you think she's going to score more than 1 point, or 1 point exactly, all you have to do is hit more, add up a couple more of those picks, and you can create your own thing to turn your money into big money. So go check out PrizePicks today, right now, and take advantage of that Caitlin Clark special. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's a $100 first deposit match when you download the PrizePicks app and use code LOCKEDONMLB, all lowercase, to get that first deposit match. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to find us where we get podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers, and you become an everydayer by listening or watching every day. Remember, Locked On Podcast Network has a Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And today at 7 p.m. Eastern, the MLB season preview is coming exclusively to Locked On Sports Today. Remember, 7 p.m. Eastern today, March 20th. Get the local insight from MLB experts on the Locked On Podcast Network on YouTube on the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel. Check it out on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. All right, Jeff. Tyler Glasnow made his Dodger debut, and it was nothing to write home about. He did get through 5 innings. He had a little bit of issue with his command. He didn't quite have his curveball working for him, and only had 3 strikeouts. But again, after talking about how Yu Darvish didn't make it out of the 4th inning, and the Padres had to use a bunch of relievers, having to only use 4 relievers instead of 5, 6, 7 was beneficial. And all in all, if he can get the curveball working and get his command on point, this is a game where he didn't have a curveball, didn't have much command, and he still only gave up 2 runs over 5 innings. You're on mute.
Sorry. All things considered, we'll take it when he doesn't have the curveball working, which is, his big strikeout pitch. It helps his fastball play up. He's kind of a 2-pitch pitcher without that curveball. And so the fact that he was able to hold them to 2 runs and realistically, I mean, without that wild pitch, one of those runs doesn't score because on the sacrifice fly, the guy who scored would have been on first base instead of third base without the wild pitch. And so it's we'll take 2 runs in 5 innings when he doesn't have his best stuff. I do think that probably the fastball command was affected by not having the curveball too, because he was feeling a need to be a little bit more perfect or whatever with the fastball. He got squeezed a couple times too. One time it didn't matter. He struck a guy out looking, umpire didn't call it, and then he got ground out on the next pitch. When he walked Manny Machado, who scored the second run, ball 4 was in the strike zone, but it was a 3-0 pitch, so it's not necessarily guaranteed. It would have been 3-1. You can't really blame that whole thing on the umpire, but he did get squeezed a little bit, and that's never helpful when you're already struggling with your command a little bit. But I think seeing what he can do without his best stuff kind of made me more excited to see him with his best stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the 2 runs that scored got on base via walk. So, there wasn't much on the Padres front in terms of hits. They only had 4 hits total in the game specifically, and Glasnow gave up
2 of them.
2 of them. So, it's one of those things where, like I said, the stuff wasn't there, but he still got through it. And that's how good his stuff is. I mean, he still had 13 swings and misses. He was touching 98. I think he touched 98, sitting mid to high 90s with the fastball. And, showed something that the Dodgers can work with for sure. And it's a lot of different things that can factor in here. And both teams are playing in a different country, and they've been there almost a week now, or a little under a week now, but there's still a little bit difference between that and pitching at home. And we'll get to see them again more than likely on Thursday next week at home. So hopefully have the curveball then, and can shut down those Midwestern farmers from St. Louis.
Yeah, it's got to be a weird situation to be pitching a game that matters in a foreign country in the same stadium that you just played games that don't matter, knowing that you're going to go back home and play more games that don't matter before you get to play more games that matter. It's it's a weird thing, and all in all, I feel like everybody, not just Glasnow, but everybody kind of stepped up and performed pretty darn well for the Dodgers. And maybe we saw a little bit more of those struggles with the Padres with all those walks and Glasnow did walk 4 guys. The bullpen was better at not walking guys. Between Glasnow and almost everybody on the Padres, there was just a lot of walks, and whether that's, all the uniqueness of the situation, or just it was a day where guys walked a lot. You can't really draw any conclusions from a 1-game sample, but it seemed like walks were kind of the story of the game. The Dodgers' first 2 runs scored on sacrifice flies. I think both of those guys had gotten on walks. I know there were walks involved in those innings for sure. I
think Teoscar got on the air.
Oh, that's right. The ground ball in the infield. That's right. But one thing that, and this is kind of branching off of the Glasnow topic, but when Jason Hayward came up with run around third and 1 out or whatever it was when the Dodgers hadn't scored yet, I felt really confident that Hayward's going to get that sac fly, and he did. And that's not necessarily a new feeling, but something about Hayward specifically, like I do expect Hayward to take a step backwards this year. But having that veteran spot in the lineup where a guy comes up, he's going to get the job done. He's going to get us a ball in the air. He even got it deep enough with Tatis's great arm. That throw was ridiculous. Got it deep enough to score him. It's something that is, I know sacrifice flies get kind of fetishized almost sometimes. I'll take a run scoring hit over a run scoring out any day, but I'll take a run scoring out over a non-run scoring out. And that's the actual choice most of the time. And so to see Hayward put together, even with 2 strikes, getting that fly ball deep enough, I thought that was really good to see. So even though they didn't get hits with runners on base, they still were doing some things that were productive with runners on base and kind of showing signs of life, so that I wasn't surprised in the 8th inning when they kind of broke out.
Yeah, I mean, even Kike's at bat, his first at bat of the game, he struck out, pretty ugly against Yuki Matsui, and then came through. At that point, I was just like, even if you just hit into a double play up the middle, at least the game will be tied. He ends up getting the ball in there, and if it had a little bit less top spin, might have gone over the fielder's head out there in left field. But the other part you mentioned, walks, where walks didn't come from was the Dodgers bullpen. They came in and shut things down. They gave up just 2 hits, no walks. Ryan Brazier, Daniel Hudson, Joe Kelly, Evan Phillips. The 4 guys that legitimately, are going to be big in the Dodgers bullpen this year. Were you surprised at all by the order and having Joe Kelly? I think Joe Kelly pitching the 8th. I guess with Gratterall out, it made sense. And maybe they wanted Hudson to kind of ease into things. But the Joe Kelly experience, you never know which way it's going to go. And I was surprised to see him in the 8th inning.
I might have been a little bit, but it might have been matchups. Maybe they liked Kelly against that particular part of the lineup. It was kind of funny seeing him make Machado run all the way to first base on the comebacker. Took his time throwing it over there. I wouldn't say I was surprised by the order. It was notable. I noted it. But maybe the most notable thing, and Joe and Earl touched on this a little bit, like Evan Phillips was the young kid of that group of 4 relievers. Like the Brazier, Hudson, and Kelly probably have an average age of 36 years old. And so, that was kind of interesting to me to see just how this bullpen has evolved a little bit. And they do still have young guys. Gratterall is still very young. He's not currently in the bullpen, but Blake Trinan is an old man, like the others. There's a lot of veterans in this bullpen, which kind of underscores what we've talked about the injury risk on this team's pitching staff overall. Like, I do think that a lot of young guys are going to be dependent on either in the rotation or the bullpen or both, because they do have, not that all old guys always get hurt, but I think injury risk goes up the older you are.
Yeah. So something to monitor for the season. Like we mentioned earlier, the Dodgers faced a lot of relievers. A lot of those relievers from the Padres were left-handed. Is that a way to neutralize the Dodgers attack after the starter comes out of the game? We're going to talk about that. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Dodgers domestic opening day is coming next week, and trying to get tickets may be frustrating. It's definitely going to be expensive, but it can be less expensive with the Gametime app, because you shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. And Gametime is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. Browse the Gametime app right now and check out what's going on in the next week. Like I said, a lot of things beyond the Dodgers, but if Dodgers specifically, you can have peace of mind knowing that when you make your purchase, you're going to get the best price. And if not, Gametime will make it right for you, because their guarantee. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. So it has no bearing on you if you buy tickets and then you find tickets cheaper, because Gametime will help you out there. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's create an account on the Gametime app. Redeem the code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I want to thank you for being an everydayer. If you are one, that's just someone that listens or watches every day. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. And you go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider at joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. Text directly with us, get news, updates, thoughts when things happen in the Dodgers world, or just simply ask us questions or have Dodger conversations. If you have nobody else in your life to talk to about the Dodgers, we're here for you. That's joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. All right, Jeff. The Dodgers faced a lot of left-handed relievers after Yu Darvish came out of the game. Obviously, when a right-hander starts the game, their lineup is pretty lefty dominant. The Dodgers faced Cosgrove, Matsui, Wandy Peralta, and Adrian Morejon. That's a lot of left-handers. They didn't get to Cosgrove or Matsui. They did get a run off Peralta, and then Morejon came in and gave up a run, or was charged with the run as well. But obviously, not most teams aren't going to have that many left-handed relievers, but our team's going to deploy more left-handed relievers when they face the Dodgers in order to, one, Freddie Freeman, Shohei Ohtani, or flip that back to back, and then the bottom half of the lineup, you got Outman, you got Hayward, you got Lux. We did see Kike come in at one point for Hayward, but they can only do so much in terms of changing guys out when a lefty comes in.
Yeah, I do think that it will be mitigated a little bit as we get deeper into the season, and so starters go deeper in the games, because, most teams won't be throwing 4 relievers at the Dodgers, let alone 4 lefties. Maybe 4 relievers most games, but probably not.
But if starters go deeper, then you
won't face you won't face the lefty part of the lineup as often to kind of deploy those lefties as much. But also, like Oral said on the broadcast, teams are going to do this as much as they can until the Dodgers prove that it doesn't work. And I don't know that that's going to take that long to prove. Ohtani and Freeman both hit lefties just fine. And, I think Lux and Outman have a really, really good chance to hit lefties pretty well. And then you've got, Hayward is a guy who, as soon as it's at least the 5th inning, probably, if it's a lefty reliever, Kike or Taylor's going to be in the game. I think we're going to see as many lefty relievers as guys have. And, and honestly, Oro might even be wrong about until the Dodgers prove it doesn't work, because we've seen with most managers, they are creatures of habit. And so they're going to keep throwing lefties. They're going to bring in a lefty to face Freddie Freeman, no matter how much Freddie Freeman hits lefty pitching, because that's what they do. And so we're going to keep seeing it. I would guess, I haven't analyzed the rosters of all 30 teams, but I would guess that the Padres are one of very few teams with that many lefty relievers even available. And I don't know how many of those guys would be on the roster during the regular season when they can only have 8 relievers in the bullpen. I don't know that they're going to carry 4 relievers then. And so, yeah, it's all in all, I'll take it. It did illustrate to me, I mentioned this on Twitter, I never liked the 3 batter minimum rule, because I knew it was not going to speed games up, because you still had Mike Schmidt walking out there and making pitching changes, 3 or 4 mid-inning pitching changes this game. I still think the better answer is just remove. Right now, it doesn't count as a mound visit if you change pitchers. Just take away that exemption. So, yeah, you want to bring in a lefty to face one guy, that's fine, but you got to use two mound visits to do that, and that limits your ability to do mound visits. And, we talked about this before. There's injury risk or whatever, but, that's on the manager. If pitcher gets hurt, fire the manager.
I feel like this is one game where that didn't work out. For the most part, I don't remember too many mid-inning pitching changes as before, but I don't know the actual data.
There's been almost exactly the same number of mid-inning pitching changes with the 3 batter minimum as there were without it.
Yeah, well, this is the first one I really noticed, because probably because it was 3 a.m. and Mike Show just kept coming out. But yeah, I mean, for the Dodgers, they have the ability to switch things up when they need to in terms of left-handers coming in. They have Chris Taylor, they have Kike, and they have, technically Austin Barnes. We need to make a meme of break in case of emergency with like Austin Barnes in a little thing. Because I almost said, like, hey, let Austin Barnes get in there once we got to the 8th inning, because there was not much else going on.
Yeah, I did have the thought at one point, like, having Barnes and Rojas both on the bench, it does, like, and Rojas might hit okay. He hit pretty well at the end of last season, so it might be okay. But it's if I have an area of concern, it might be the depth of the hitting ability on the bench, and that would be mitigated some if they had a backup catcher who could hit a little bit better. But all in all, yeah, I mean, really, you just have the 2 pinch hitters, just Kike and Taylor, because the other 2 guys are really more, one is a defensive replacement, and the other one is, well, I guess we have to have a backup catcher on the roster.
Yeah, at the very least, Rojas, supposed to make more contact than anything, and sometimes that's all you need. But we'll see what happens as the season goes on. Hopefully, they're not in a lot of games where they only have 1 run going into the 8th inning.
Yeah, that's hopefully the case.
Yeah, Jeff, I don't know, I know you have to go soon. Is there anything else you want to add before you head out?
The only other thing I was going to say is, like, I do think there's a big difference between 3 a.m. for you and 4 a.m. for me. I think that's that dividing line of 3 a.m. There's a question. Do I just stay up, or, 4 a.m. it's pretty obvious. I went to bed, and, I went to bed at 9:00 last night and got up at 4. And now I'm, the reason I have to go right now is because I have a meeting for work, because I'm starting my work day now. I don't hate this. Like, if all Dodger games started at 4 a.m., I think I would get used to it pretty easily, and I wouldn't hate it at all, because I kind of like getting up early. It's more productive days, and so going to bed early, getting up early, watching a Dodger game, doing a podcast, and then doing my 8 hours of work, I could get used to this. I'm actually kind of looking forward to tomorrow after seeing how this morning went. I had my sons get up with me. That was obviously fun, made it more fun than just watching a game in the dark by myself. Having my sons up with me was awesome. My college roommate is a Padres fan. His sons got up to watch with him too. And he texted me while we were recording this, and he said, well, I'm glad one of us enjoyed waking up way too early to watch baseball with his sons. I told him he should have known. So, if you're listening to, better luck tomorrow, but not really. So yeah, I'm going to drop off now, Vince. I'll let you close this out, but yeah, it was fun, and looking forward to tomorrow. Dodger 162-0 is still in play. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, true. All right, Jeff. All right. Yeah, like Jeff said, it's 162-0 is still in play. We will get to see Yoshinobu Yamamoto tomorrow. That'll be fun. We will get to see, the Dodgers against Joe Musgrove, which should be better than not facing Joe Musgrove. And we get to get up at 3 a.m. again and see the Dodgers second game. And then we get to not worry about baseball mattering for a week. And then we get to see the Dodgers come over again. So all in all, a good night or good morning for us. Good night in Korea for the Dodgers. They got the win. They handled things how they needed to, and it all worked out. Remember, for us specifically, we are recording after these games finish. So for the next, today and tomorrow now, we want to let you know that there is a Dodgers postcast that will be showing up in your audio feeds. Almost after every game, there's going to be a Dodgers postcast recapping the game specifically. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. On YouTube, it'll be on Locked On Sports Today live once the game ends. It'll be in our audio feeds for you guys to listen to on that end. So make sure to check it out. We met with Peter yesterday, and he's a big-time Dodger fan. He's been a Dodger fan his whole life, so you guys should get some good stuff there. So go check him out live on YouTube, Locked On Sports Los Angeles, after the game, or it'll already be in your audio feed if you already subscribe on wherever you get your podcasts. So that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank y'all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Make sure to check out Locked On Sports Today, March 20th at 7 p.m. Eastern for that MLB season preview. Make sure to check out Locked On Sports Los Angeles after tomorrow's game to check out Peter on the Locked On Dodgers postcast. And remember, you can become a Locked On Dodgers insider at joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. You can text directly with us, ask us questions, send us messages, whatever you need to do. You can also follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Jeff is on Twitter at Snydog. I'm at Vincents91. You can DM us if you have any questions or comments. You can also send those via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us when you get in your car or if you're at home. Tell your smart device, play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.